Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, if Korean pop is known as K-pop, then what should French art be known as? Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Transformers deck building game from Renegade Game Studios. Hello, everybody. We'll get back to the review in just a second. I just want to take a moment to ask you to go ahead and check out and subscribe to my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. Please check that out. Please subscribe. And now, back to the review. In Transformers deck building game from Renegade Game Studios, 1 to 5 players take on the roles of various Autobots as they attempt to defeat the evil forces of the Decepticons. Now, the game is going to come with various main deck cards, as well as kind of cards for the various Autobot players. You're going to have cardboard standees that represent the various Autobot characters, as well as tokens and other goodies. Now, the Transformers deck building game can be played in different game modes. You can play it as a cooperative game mode, you can play it as a competitive game mode, and you can play it as a solo game mode. I have only played the solo game mode, so that's what I'm going to be looking at today. Depending on the player count, players are going to build a grid of main deck cards for the solo game and 2-player game. I think it's 3x4, so 12 cards out there. But you're going to lay these different cards out face down. Now, before you can make your grid, you're actually going to have to kind of seed it correctly. You're going to be putting bosses in there. You're also going to be putting any kind of special cards, depending on, as I say, if you're playing cooperative or solo. And if you're playing competitive, if you're playing anything but solo, essentially, you, I believe, have the relic cards in there too. Which I have not played with, but you're going ahead, you're seeding the card decks in order to create that matrix that you're going to be playing on. Now, to the side, you're going to have the transform and roll out cards, you're going to have the encounter cards, and you're going to have damage cards as well. Each player is going to choose one of the bigger cards that is there to set their Autobot. So, for instance, if you are Optimus Prime, you're going to take his card and his cardboard standee, and you're going to set that in front of you. Now, it's going to have 2 different sides. You're going to have the bot mode, which is Optimus Prime and all his robot glory, but then, of course, you can transform him, flipping him over to his alt mode side, which is him as the truck. Generally, when the Autobots are in alt mode, they can move faster. They have movement points, and when they are in the robot mode, they fight better. Players are also going to get some Energon cubes, which are kind of currency in the game. You're also going to get movement tokens, which show how many times you've moved. Now, you've got 10 starter cards. You've got courage cards, which have, like 1 energy each. You're going to have some various other cards that give you movement and other things as well. You're going to go ahead and shuffle these and draw 5 cards every round. Now, the basic gist of the game is you can spend your movement points to move your standee along the grid. You can then spend a movement point to flip whatever card is beneath you. When you find that card, then different things are going to happen. It may just be a location in which certain things can happen there, good and bad. It could be a kind of technology or something that a card you can buy. It may be an Autobot that you can recruit into your hand, or it could be a Decepticon or even a boss Decepticon. They're the worst. Now, if you reveal a card and it is a Decepticon, you kind of want to be in bot mode because you'll be stronger there. So you may want to transform before you open it, but then you may not have the movement to do it. But if you reveal an evil transformer there, you go ahead and draw an encounter card. The encounter card essentially is kind of the story, that what happens when you find them, what you have to do. And there's also a section at the bottom, if you encounter one of the bosses, what happens then. Otherwise, if you find one of these other cards, you can buy these cards. You can buy your fellow Autobots to bring them into your hand to make it stronger as the game progresses. Now, each character also has some energon abilities. These are specific abilities you can spend energon on in order to kind of enhance your, to give you advantages. And then also there may be confront abilities on your player or on some of the cards you're going to play. Now, confront abilities are what happens when you go up against one of those big baddies, the bosses. You can actually go into this confront mode. You don't know exactly if you're going to be able to take them down, but you can go ahead and try to do that. Throughout this all, your basic kind of currency that you're spending within the game to buy cards, to battle cards, is this energy that's printed on your card. You go ahead, you look at all your cards, you add those up, and you see what you can get. Now, in the cooperative game and even in the competitive game, there are ways you can assist other players in doing that. There's kind of a round where you can assist each other in order to make things happen. You don't have that advantage, of course, in a solo game. Now, in addition to energy, you also have movement on some of your cards, which give you more movement, but then you also have range. So what you can do is you can actually attack cards from a different space. So if you have got a range of 1, if you're in an adjacent space, for every range of 1 that is matched by an energy of 1, you can project that power against an enemy card in another location to defeat that card. You can defeat that card, it's out of the game, and then you place another card from the main deck face down in the matrix. Now, there are also some schemes that come out. There's Decepticon schemes and cooperative schemes, which kind of tell you need to fulfill specific the specific criteria of these cards in order to advance or to achieve a goal. Now, in a competitive game, there is a VP scoring system. In the cooperative game and in the solo game, essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to defeat all 3 bosses that have been seated in the deck before the main deck runs out. If you can do that, if you can defeat all 3 of those baddies before the deck runs out, then you win Transformers deck building game. So first of all, I am a child of the 80s, and I grew up watching the Transformers cartoon. Didn't have a lot of the toys. I liked it. I was always more of a G.I. Joe guy. I liked Transformers, but I think I had maybe 1 or 2 of them. But it was like my friends they were like the big collectors of Transformers. So there's a certain nostalgia factor certainly here. And I mean, obviously that's kind of what they're counting on is we children of the 80s who are grown up with disposable income now can play these games, which is cool, right? It's fun that they can kind of harken back to our childhoods for this, our childhood for that. So the game here it's a pretty straightforward deck builder in a lot of ways, except it does have this movement, this idea of movement, and you can assist each other and those sorts of things in the multiplayer games. And in the solitaire game, it's a little more straightforward, but at the same time, there's some less things that you can do. So what I found in playing this game is the whole kind of alt mode to bot mode. It's very clever, and you fight better if you're a robot, but you get more movement, which is important if you're in alt mode. When you find an enemy and you go to the encounter deck and you read the encounter deck, and yeah, again, that's very very clever. And then when you are in the fights with the bosses and stuff, and you have the confront stuff that occurs, and you play the confront and spend energon for that, that's very clever. And if you're sensing a theme here, it's because I would say this game is very clever. Not necessarily a good thing. And what I mean by that is, I think the game would have benefited if it had been a little more streamlined. Now again, I've just played from the solitaire version, and I might have a different perspective if I played it from as a co-op or as a competitive. But from the solitaire version, I felt like it was just a hair more rulesy than it needed to be. Not complicated. It wasn't an overly complicated game, but a little more rulesy than it needed to be. I realize you've got to find a way thematically to incorporate the turning into a vehicle, turning into a robot. I don't know that they nailed it here. It just, I don't know. Like I say, it felt a little unnecessary the way it was handled here. Again, I did like the encounter stuff generally, but even that I felt, there's something to be said for just straightforward, here's a villain, let's fight him, There's more going on in this game than I'm talking about, certainly. I'm not getting into every rule, right? But I'm giving you the overview. to me, the big draw was that nostalgia factor. And the game mechanics, while serviceable, while okay, didn't thrill me. And one of the, if I'm not mistaken, one of the designers of this game is one of the designers of the DC Comics deck building game, which I love, which is still one of my favorite games. And one of the reasons why I love the DC Comics deck building game is it's a fairly simple, straightforward deck builder. There's not a lot of bells and whistles, and that's fine. It works great as it is. Here, it just seemed like it was a bit much. Like I say, good but rulesy. Maybe that's the takeaway here. Good but rulesy. Liked it, didn't love it. May try it again at some point, but I'm in really no hurry. And if I do try it again, I'll definitely try one of the other game modes. I don't think Solitaire just didn't do much for me. Recommendation for the discriminating gamer, therefore, with those caveats, is try it before you buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. And I also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we take a look at books on military history and various topics in military history. I really hope you'll check that out and subscribe to that channel as well. And we'd also ask you to please give a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. That also helps us out. You know, ladies and gentlemen, Bigfoot is often confused with Sasquatch. Yeti never complains.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
What I have done for the English language, Cody has done for board game reviews. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark, but nothing is rotten with Cody.